Hi everyone. I think we'll make a start. I think I thought I started a moment or two ago, but I was muted again. I hope everyone can hear me. Welcome to this event. I'll say a few words just as others are joining. There's so many people that's coming in. It's fantastic to see you all. Thank you very much for joining. Welcome to this event. My name is Gary Smith. I am the president of the Faculty of Homeopathy. I'm really delighted to see so many people at this event. It's really wonderful to see all the names and all the faces from around the world, really, which is great, from many countries around the world. Thank you very much for joining us. And this event is being recorded. So if you happen to be watching it at a later stage, then thank you for tuning in, and I'm delighted to welcome you today. This webinar is part of a series of webinars, as you might know, that represents a collaboration between the Faculty of Homeopathy and Vithoulkas Compass. And I would like to say just at the start of this, how pleased I am to be collaborating in this way and providing these educational sessions. And thank you to our friends at Vithoulkas Compass for their support of the Faculty of Homeopathy. As you know, our speaker today is our good friend and well-known homeopath, Andrew Ward, who's very well known to most of us, I think. Andrew is the UK ambassador for Vithoulkas Compass and is a very experienced and busy practitioner, having been in practice for over 30 years, I think, in both the NHS and private settings here in the UK. And he has been very closely associated with the International Academy of Classical Homeopathy in Lonisos for many years, where he's worked closely with Professor George Vithoulkas. And I have many good memories of several summers spent in Lonisos with you, Andrew, and we haven't been able to do it recently, but we've very good memories of time spent there. And Andrew is passionate about and dedicated to raising the standard of homeopathic practice and homeopathic education as well. So it's really great to welcome him today to this. And today he's going to be presenting a case of chronic thrombosed hemorrhoids and migraine headaches, two very challenging to treat conditions. And he will be demonstrating to us how a correctly chosen, correctly prescribed homeopathic medicine, an individualized, classically prescribed homeopathic medicine can really bring about profound effects and lasting healing. And in particular, he'll be demonstrating and illustrating how using the Vithoulkas Compass software program can be helpful in choosing both that initial prescription and indeed the follow-up analysis and the prescribing. So I hope that you all find this session informative and interesting. I'm looking forward to it, and welcome again. And I think without further ado, I don't think I'll say anything else, and we'll hand over to Andrew. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Gary, for that very generous introduction. And welcome everyone. This the fourth in the series of working on what works in homeopathy in partnership with Vithoulkas Compass and the Faculty of Homeopathy. Today, I would like to present this case from some years ago. Somebody not muted. This case from some years ago, which struck me as a very interesting case, as these are conditions that can be quite difficult to treat. And it also presents a very interesting remedy that is not so well known to people, a remedy that I learned really from this case. So often in homeopathy, we know the main remedies, But the smaller one, of which there are hundreds of small remedies, we can't learn them very well until we have cases of them. And then it sticks in our minds forever. So that's why we need to be very busy, so that we see more and more cases, so we get to see the small remedies as well. So I thought I'd present this because it's not a remedy you'll see every day, but actually we should know it better. So, okay, let me switch my screen in a minute. So I'll just say this, this lady, 35-year-old lady, came to see me with these very chronic hemorrhoids and a history of migraine headaches. So the chronology, which is always very important that we establish the chronology in a case, was that these chronic hemorrhoids started 10 years ago. So this has been going on for 10 years, this problem. Bleeding and very painful hemorrhoids, which had become worse in the last year. And she'd had these hemorrhoids injected several times. She'd had operations to bands put on, and also a couple of anal fissures. So this area was very, very painful area for her. What she said was that the only thing that would relieve slightly was if she would sit on a bag of ice to relieve the pain. So probably to numb the situation. Also describing the pain as feeling like cut glass in the rectum. Cut glass, pieces of cut glass are very painful, and particularly painful after stool. So painful during, but afterwards the pain could last for up to an hour afterwards. Severe pain for up to an hour after passing stool, and with bleeding as well. So also there had been migraine headaches, but these had been going on since 1996. So that in this chronology was 11 years she'd had the migraine headaches. So they preceded the hemorrhoids. It was actually since she started taking the pill at the time. So these would be severe migraines, starting with blurred vision, then nausea, then the headache, a strong, which was better in fresh air, craving for salt during the headache. This is not uncommon. And hunger during the headache. This is quite unusual. Usually in headaches, most people with nausea feel a lack of appetite. To have hunger during gives us some indications. So the headaches would be better for eating. Also, she described her libido had been very low in the last 3 years.
Andrew, sorry to interrupt, but we don't see your screen. I don't know if you have shared your screen to see the symptoms.
No, I haven't started yet. You see the
I see the cover. Yes, we see the cover.
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay. Thank
you. I'll show you in a moment. I'll show you the symptoms I took.
Okay, thank you.
So also what was interesting is that she had a Marina coil fitted 3 years ago, which coincided then with the low libido. The Marina coil is a contraceptive coil with hormones, so that release hormones, so that her periods had been totally suppressed for 3 years. So here we have the chronology. A little bit more information about her. She said, I'm somebody that worries by nature. She's an accountant. She has a benign essential tremor that she's had from a young age, which becomes worse when nervous. Also, she can then develop, she has slight OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. So she can get very, some superstitions and ritualistic tendencies. And has a particular dislike of falsity. So people being lying, being false, being falsely accused, high levels of integrity, gets very offended if people, she finds out people have been lying, can't stand injustice, but avoids any conflict. So these are some character traits that we can keep in mind to help us. Generals, she's generally better, she feels better in the evening and worse in the afternoon in energy. So we'll go on to my symptom list. Can you see this? I think yes. This was the first list of symptoms here, 12 symptoms. What I've done here, again, I can show you from those who don't know on Compass, what we can do. Okay. I can do continue editing, right? So we can, actually I want to unmerge these. So just to show you something you can do here. When you're looking for a particular symptom, so what struck me with her is that she had this tendency to superstitions and obsessive compulsive behavior. So we have several things in the repertory we can use. So what we can do is combine them into if you like, a single rubric. So for instance, she has this checking behavior. So what we can do here is, if you go to options, merge symptoms, and then you can select which ones you want to merge into one rubric. So you have checking, compulsive neurosis, which we now have as a rubric in Compass, and ritualistic behavior, which is very similar to compulsive neurosis, but it has a slightly different flavor to it. So we can use this, and then you go merge selected. So now this gets, you see, taken as a single rubric. Because there may be, we can see in them, there may be remedies, for instance, that aren't in some of the other rubrics. So if you like, it collects more remedies into the rubric, because if you were to just choose one of them, you may miss the remedy because it's not exactly coordinated. So this way we combine them. And you see here we have headache, better for eating. This was a clear symptom. These are the migraine symptoms. I've put them all in together. There are two ways you can analyze this kind of case. One way is to just take things in layers, so you can just analyze the hemorrhoid symptoms, because this was, if you like, the more recent problem. And then the migraine problems later, you can analyze that as a separate thing. So you can do it this way, or you can put it all together in the repertorization with the correct underlining. And with the very clever brain of Vithoulkas Compass, it will bring up the remedies needed in the correct order anyway. So, but just to show that you can do this in different ways. So I've got the headache symptoms here, blurred vision, and then we've got the rectal was the fissures, the bleeding, the hemorrhoids, pain after stool, better cold application. Cutting, this is the symptom of, we don't have the symptom like cut glass in the repertory, but we use cutting. Generally better in the evening. Also, she had worse afternoon sleep. Actually, that was another general symptom. So she had a siesta, a nap, she would feel much worse, and then some trembling. So this covers her totality of our case, if you like. Also, another aspect of this case is that actually a more recent problem was the lack of libido. But you have to be aware in this case that she's done some interfering by using this coil, which has suppressed the periods and then created another issue due to the coil in the hormones. So my advice in this case was for her to replace the coil with a normal one, non-hormone one, so that we could see then, and most likely those symptoms would disappear because the hormone element would balance better, and then those symptoms that came on from that would disappear. So you're taking away an obstacle, if you like. Rather than treating that, it's better to remove the cause. Okay, it would be an obstacle otherwise. So the uppermost layer in this case is by 1 year is the severe chronic thrombosed piles. And the pain of this was exceedingly disturbing. So every time passing a bowel motion was agony. And this had been going on for 10 years, on and off. So we see here the symptoms. What else can I show? Yes, so here we will go to, here we have all the degrees we've put in. And then we'll go to solve on this case. And we have a very interesting thing coming up here. As I say, at the time, a remedy I didn't know called Ratania. Ratania is a very small remedy you'll find in Buraka. And also we see it in Compass Materia Medica notes. So here in the repertory, you can immediately, if you don't know the remedy, you say, oh, Ratania, what's that? You can click on this screen. And actually, we even have some GV notes, Buraka, which says it's something called Mapato or Ratani root. Chimeria triandra, a plant. Clark, Allen, and then we have here remedy relations, which is a useful thing to always keep in mind when we're looking at differentiating to see. We see here, it says compare with some other remedies we know are very well indicated for piles or hemorrhoids. Peony, another small remedy. And GV notes. And it's very interesting. Here we see with Ratania, we have some information on the mental emotional level. Compulsive neurosis. It's an aspect of this remedy that Professor Vithoulkas has also taught and talked about, and that I've seen in cases now, is that they will often suffer with a type of OCD. And sometimes I remember another case of a young lad, and he would spend about 2 hours in the bathroom every day because they get obsessive about their rectal hygiene. So it becomes obsessive. They'll just go to great lengths because they become obsessed with it all because their problem is so large. So here we have superstitions, and also sometimes compulsions of a religious nature. I've not seen that, but so this aspect, if you like, as a sort of something to remember it in your minds, because we have to remember so much, is compulsive neurosis and hemorrhoids. If you get that, it's Ratania. Simple, really, isn't it? We just have to remember these little click notes, you know. Compulsive hemorrhoids, Ratania. You might want to compare with nitric acid, for instance, which would have, what would that be? That would be anxiety of health, fear of cancer, hemorrhoids, nitric acid. It would be a different emphasis. You see, they can have, the hemorrhoid symptoms can be almost identical. But when you look at the totality, nitric acid is completely different in its mentality. So this is how we can identify remedies quickly, just by 2 or 3 little things that join up, a triangle, you know, this, and this remedy. Only Ratania has compulsive neurosis and piles. So it has to be this remedy. So we see here, and here we see, look, as if splinters of glass in the rectum, as she described. And you see nitric acid causes fissures. Now here it says better warm. Her case, better cold. And you see in the repertory, it's in both. So we have to be careful, it's in both, better warm and better cold. Yeah, so we see a very interesting remedy here. Ratania. What I can do just to show you a bit now with the repertory is some things we can look at. You might say, well, okay, it's saying here that the result is clear, but I don't know this so well. Maybe I don't know the materia medica. How do we differentiate with nitric acid? Well, we have this very nice tool, differential analysis, which click on and it will give us some ready-made symptoms, which we can ask the patient at the time, for instance. And this will flag up some questions, some rubrics that you can ask relating to the top few remedies. So for instance, you might say, how do I differentiate? Say, salt, what are nitric acid like? Fat and salt. So you ask, you say, do you like salt? And they go, no, I avoid it. Okay, fat, hate it. And you can then dismiss the nitric acid, you see, because the nitric acid will say they love fat and salt. You know, meat, fat with salt, barbecue, roast pork, love it. Anxiety about health, for instance. But we have to be a bit careful because some of these rubrics you'll see may contain both remedies. For instance, although for salt, you see nitric acid is strong, but you see Ratania there, 1st degree. So it's almost, Ratania physically is a bit like nitric acid, but on lower degrees. It's very similar, but less intense, but it has a different mentality. Typical nitric acid symptom, very grumpy in the morning. Won't speak to anyone, for instance. You can ask all these symptoms. If there's any hatred involved. External hemorrhoids. You see, in external hemorrhoids, Ratania is stronger. And one thing I showed you last time, again, I can show it again, is to show we can select Ratania. And then we can select nitric acid, and we can select mind and rectum. And then we can do a search. And what this will do is this will show you, you see here, Ratania and nitric acid. It'll show you which remedies have which symptoms or which are common to both. So useful for study. So you see here a lot of the hemorrhoid rectal symptoms belong to Ratania in very strong degree. Cutting, burning, sitting. Hers were worth sitting actually, which is common. Sticking like splinters. And there you see the warm bathing. And here we see common symptoms to them. External, protruding after stool, heat and inactivity. And then we see mind symptoms here. And here we get a little picture of Ratania. You see they have anxiety about health of relatives, like we would think of with phosphorus. So nitric acid is very much, they are anxious about their own health, hypochondriacal really, and but Ratania is anxiety about others. So again, a difference. See, full of cares about relatives. You see, this is, we think of arsenicum and phosphorus and sulfur. But Ratania is there. If it's got the compulsive element, the rectal symptoms, desire for company. So all this is a bit like phosphorus or arsenicum. The compulsive neurosis, some fear something bad will happen, like phosphorus again. And here we have some religious affections. And then we start to see the common symptoms again. Of both remedies. So you see here, both remedies can have anger, anxiety, fear of death, but it's all much lower for Ratania than in nitric acid, irritability. So this is a very useful comparison tool for us. You can even exclude things, or you can say what's common to them. So this, for instance, now we see immediately the symptoms that they share. Quite a lot, interestingly. You see all the mood symptoms, changeable mood, reserved, quarrelsome. And then this one shows you one by one what symptoms they have, and then the differential, this shows you what's separate. You can also change the degrees and show only 3rd and 4th degree in the search. So, or you can minimize the rubric size to narrow it down to exclusive symptoms. So we could say, if we took away this one and this one, Ratania in the whole repertory, and we say maximum rubric size 1. So this shows us where Ratania is the only remedy listed in that rubric. So you see cutting pain when sitting, head pain, shooting forehead during menses, etc. Fear something bad will happen when alone, relieved by conversation. Interesting symptom. A bit like arsenicum and phosphorus. But again, the only remedy there. So this gives us some unique symptoms of Ratania. good for learning. Okay. Here, what we can do, I'll show you here, results again. We can do specific remedy analysis. So we can, this is another way of doing it. You can say, well, I want to analyze Rhytania and nitric acid again. You go to proceed. And here we have some symptoms that will differentiate between those two remedies. So you see again, these are questions about nitric acid. And then some questions about Rhytania. And you'll see it under this actually. So main keynote symptoms shows us we can ask specific questions about these two remedies that are pre-prepared, that you can ask the patient, you see. Does your jaw crack when you're chewing? Or we can ask specific questions about Rhytania. So these are all ways to help narrow down your choice. Once you've got the result, and you can do this specific on several remedies, you can choose all four of these if you like, and then it'll differentiate between them. If it's, for instance, there's no mental symptoms and just physical, then it's more difficult. It'll help differentiate the very specific rectal symptoms. So this is very, very useful. Highly recommended. And okay. So in the case, I actually gave her 30C single dose. And in the follow-up, she had an aggravation the next day of the symptoms for 24 hours and then was better, loads better, she said, loads, meaning very much better. And she said, it's got to the point where I no longer have any pain or symptoms. So this was after a month, the follow-up. New symptom, itching inside. So prescription at that point is always wait. Of course, this is the ideal response, remedy reaction, aggravation, 24 hours, huge improvement in the symptoms. So you see here, December and January, large improvement, and then the January analysis. So her hemorrhoids were solved within a month with a 30C. But the migraines, of course, continued. Very irritable with the husband and the children, especially in the afternoons, wanting to get away from them. She'd taken out the Mirena coil, so the periods had become regular. Libido back to normal. So you see, it was nothing to do with the real state. It was the coil. However, the migraines continued. So here we've got still some checking behavior, the irritability, the headaches better after eating, the blood. So here we have the migraine symptoms. Generals worse at 3 p.m., better in the evening. These migraines come every month. So there's the sleep symptom. And we see the results. Of course, we think of sepia in this case. We have serenum and we have iris because of the visual symptoms. Serenum, because serenum is one of the remedies that gets increased hunger during headache, along with phosphorus, which is quite strange. And sepia. So we see phosphorus here, Staphylos aureus down here. So she had sepia 200, single dose. After 1 month, she came back and said there was no change, no response. Minor improvements, really. Which surprised me, but she had some other symptoms that I remember if they were new or she hadn't mentioned before, but she said, of course, we knew about the afternoon sleep, which is a keynote of Staphylococcus aureus. And also she mentioned that she smoked a lot. She had an increased desire for tobacco, which when we see a symptom change or become increased, and more recently, we have to take more notice of it. So we see here some remedies that love to smoke tobacco, including Staphylococcus aureus. We know that tobacco helps to, in my experience, suppress the emotions. So if people are very anxious, smoking helps keep everything down. So the more someone smokes, the more they have going on inside that needs to come out, the more they're suppressing. So we see here, we've added in the tobacco. And we see Staphylococcus aureus and then jump up with that one symptom. These two peculiar symptoms. And actually none of the headache symptoms or generals, but it covers the strange, rare and peculiar. And here we have something called metadata, which is some nice information from various sources, from Vithoulkas Compass, from Professor Vithoulkas, Farrington, little excerpts of Differential. After sleep in the office, this is useful in the Staphylococcus is psychologically worse afterwards. Sulfur will have stomach and sourness afterwards. Brian has a feeling as if a stone. So Staphylococcus aureus is more psychologically and generally worse after siesta. That's the same, that's been repeated there actually. Okay, so I gave a Staphylococcus aureus 1M, 1 dose. After this, she said, had a two-day outburst of irritability with the children, then a migraine, but less severe and shorter lasting. So this is a good sign. So I said, wait. The next month, only half a migraine came. It was like less intense, but shorter, but still there. So they hadn't gone, they were just less intense. So then I went up to, gave 1M again and 10M in the same day. So 1M, a few hours apart, increasing the dose to give the remedy a push. And after this, the migraine stopped. And also she'd mentioned that checking behavior had started to be reduced and be much less, so her compulsive behavior. And of course, the tremor was the same. The benign essential tremor, in my experience, they seem to just stay. You know, it's a type of tremor that just stays the same, doesn't progress. I've not seen it improve either. Never had any return of the piles. And I spoke to her sometime afterwards, and she never got the piles back in the migraine. So it was a good layered case. In fact, Staphylococcus aureus that solved the migraines, not sepia, even though sepia covered more of the migraine symptoms. But you see, when we look at her character, we see that it fits more with Staphysagra. She was bothered by injustice and people not being fair and honest, but avoided any conflict. So here we see that's not a sepia type, it's more Staphysagra. You add in the peculiar symptoms, the remedy. So, yeah. So this was December, and then the final prescription and follow-up would have been September 8th, so nearly a year. Okay. Information about Retainia. You can see, let's show a bit more of the, we can go up to Materia Medica. And here we are, Rectal, for instance. You see, he says rectal symptoms are most important. Full of broken glass. Just imagine if any of you have had that, but knife-like stitches, burning like fire, relieved by cold water. You see, he says here cold water, but you see in GV notes it says warm applications. It's actually both. And then compare peony. We can go, you see, we can go up here and choose any. How do you spell peony? P-O-P-E, peony. Another very small remedy, but specifically focused on rectal symptoms. And you see here, itching, hemorrhoids, fissures, atrocious pains with and after each stool. So this is one to always compare. And you see here, compare Retainia. Great constriction of anus stools forced out with great effort. Antidotes, Retainia. Aloe is another one. So we can, as a study, we can look at we can select 5 or 6 of these small remedies that relate to hemorrhoid and study the differences. This is a very good exercise to do, to learn remedies. But we see here, this is one of the things that it's hard to pick up in the repertory still, is that the pain in Retainia is long lasting after stool. I think this is something we need to try and get in the repertory as a rubric, because it's not really represented. You've got pain after stool, but the point is long lasting. It can be up to several hours after. And this is specific to Retainia. Okay, what else? Anything else? Bursting headaches after stool. I think we've seen the main features of the remedy. Okay, so what I would like to do now is invite Elena to present any of the questions. We've had quite a lot of questions, I think, coming in. So if Elena's there.
I am, Andrew. I'm here.
Welcome.
First of all, I'd like to say a very big thank you for another extremely interesting webinar and a fabulous case. Well done. I think we all learned so much from attending your lectures. I'm checking the questions, and actually we don't have that many questions. I'll begin with a question, with a comment from Sadet Arslan. And he says that I would have dismissed Retania as the warm application would contradict her main relief, better from cold application. How can you be sure in these cases to stick to Retania?
Well, that's a good question. But as I said, if you look in the repertory, you find that the relief is both warm and cold. So we have to just be clear in our Materia Medica that actually it can be either. So actually, it's not a differentiating symptom in Retania. So it can be either.
Okay.
The other that are differentiating, the mental picture and this long-lasting pain after stool.
Okay, so now we have another question from Lubaina. And she asks, why such a high dose of 1 mg in Staphysagria, while with the other two remedies, you got results with 30 CH and 200 CH?
Yeah, good question. Potency is always a mystery, isn't it?
Yes, it is actually.
But the reason is because I was aware that with Staphysagria, the issue was an emotional one. I didn't know exactly, she didn't say exactly what that issue was or what had happened, but we were aware that this was more to do with some mental emotional issues. And therefore we go, and it was very clear on the peculiar symptoms. Therefore we can go higher, and the migraines had been there a very long time. So I was sure she could handle a high potency. We could have used a 200 perfectly well. So, but 1 mg is okay to use in a clearly indicated case, especially if the issue is on a mental level. Okay.
Okay, Andrew. So now there's another question from Julie Graves, and she says that Professor Vithoulkas says it's very hard to heal anal fissures. Why is that?
I think it's because this part of the body is always being used continuously, if not once a day, several times a day, so that the wound's always being affected. It doesn't have time to heal up. So I think this is the issue. It needs to be very fast acting, the remedy, in order for the tissue to resolve before. And again, if there's any kind of constipation, then it starts to affect the tissues again, and then opens up again. So it is difficult. So it needs to be fast. Yes.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. Now, Meher Darani asks if there were any traumatic events in life confirming the Staphysagria layer.
Yes, that was my thoughts too afterwards, but I never discovered what it was. No. So we'll never know, but we can assume there was something because of the way that it acted. But in a way, we don't need to know, because we have the keynotes there to guide us. So the afternoon sleep is such a keynote for Staphysagria in this case. So let's see, go back to this results. You see, all we had was this very strong afternoon sleep reaction, plus this, and this is really important, this idea is that when a symptom become stronger, then you have to take special note of it. And in her case, the tobacco smoking had become more after the previous prescription. So it's like the organism is showing the remedy. So we don't actually need to know. We just need to give the remedy.
Shall I ask you another question, Andrew?
Yes, please.
It's Raki, and he asks if there is any change to compulsive behavior with retina.
If there is any,
Compulsive behavior with retina.
was there any change in the case?
Yes.
Yes, it was. As I said at the end, at the last follow-up, she actually said that the checking and obsessive behavior had diminished. So over time. So yes, even that had started to diminish. Yes.
Okay, apart from that, we don't have very many more questions. What we do have is an infinite number of comments. Everybody's extremely happy with your case. They found it a very interesting case, and they are very happy with this wonderful training session.
Thank you. Yes. Well, I hope it's been of interest. Let me put some information on here. You know, these cases, when you're operating a very busy practice, it's essential to have, you know, in the old days before when I started homeopathy, there were no computers. Shows you how long I've been doing it. There were no computers at all. So we had to rely on the books, and it was a laborious task going through. You had to have much more memory, remember all this, write things down. It was a huge task. With these computer systems, and particularly the Compass software, the task has become so much more precise. And we're able to, you know, if we learn how to use this, we can see so many more cases and pinpoint the remedies, the small remedies, so much more easily. So I would be, well, these days lost without it. So, you know, too many people to deal with. So I think it's essential, and I urge people to at least have a free trial and look at the options of it. And it's very, very useful. It's a subscription system. So, and you know, what's essential is all the information is so well confirmed in Compass. So it's not stuff that hasn't that's just been put in there by anybody. You know, we need confirmed, reliable information, and that's what we have in Compass. So.
Meanwhile, Andrew, the thank you notes are pouring in. Everybody's extremely happy with this case, and they found it extremely interesting. We don't have any more questions, so therefore maybe our president of the faculty of homeopathy, maybe he would like to do the closure, or do you have anything more to say?
No, that's it. Thank you everyone for watching, and I look forward to your presence next time.
Thank you very much, Andrew, and thank you, Alina. And just before everyone leaves, I just want to say, again, express my thanks to Andrew. I think that was an outstanding case, and really illustrates yet again the enormous potential of a correctly prescribed homeopathic medicine to really transform someone's life. And also the usefulness of Vithoulkas Compass. So yeah, no problem. I'd like to thank everyone for coming. If you would like to find out more information about Vithoulkas Compass, you can do so at the website. And if you'd like to find out more information about the Faculty of Homeopathy, you can also do so at our website, www.facultyofhomeopathy.org. If you join as a member of the Faculty of Homeopathy, you can access all sorts of other webinars at reduced prices, and also Vithoulkas Compass at a reduced price. And if you're not interested in that, then could I please exhort everyone, whether you're a member of any organization or none, you should be subscribing to the Homeopathy Journal. This is the Faculty of Homeopathy's international research journal. It's the only journal in the world that is Medline listed and dedicated purely to homeopathy. So if you want to know what's what in the homeopathic research community, then go to homeopathyjournal.net and sign up there. An inside hint is it's probably cheaper if you become a faculty member, but however, you can subscribe directly.
It's true. It's absolutely true. And Gareth, may I just say something before you close?
Yes, please.
That both our team, all of our team, were extremely happy and proud to be working and collaborating with you, and having Andrew on board as an ambassador. He's doing a fantastic job. And you're doing a fantastic job as a faculty to promote us and giving us this chance of executing these webinar series. Everybody is very, very happy, as you can see in the chat.
Yeah.
And we look forward to more.
Yes, here's to the next time. Yeah, thank you. I completely echo what you've said, Alina, and I'm very happy to be collaborating, and the Faculty of Homeopathy is very happy as well to be collaborating like this, and we look forward to the next installment in this series. So I think, unless there's any other questions or comments, I'm happy to bring this to a conclusion today. So thank you all once again, and we'll see you next time. Thank you, everyone.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.